Trump already has my vote. Why must you still give me reasons to vote for him when it's already over? I can't vote for him again. It's he's already won. But he keeps doing things that are impressing me that I'm happy to hear. For one, the White House today, OPM orders all DEI offices to begin closing by end of day Wednesday. Bravo, Trump. Amazing news. Now, true equality can be restored to the United States. Before, there were exceptions and rules were being bent so that they can earn the favor of their base, which is, if you think about it, the Black population and the gay population. Who did DEI benefit? Well, it wasn't whites and Asians, that's for sure. But if you were a Black person with a lower IQ and you had lower test scores, you couldn't pass the written competency test or the any of the requirements for reading, math, etc. Same thing's happening in schools. Now they're removing the requirement for you to read at a certain grade level to graduate because they said that standards are racist. Imagine how incompetent things are right now and you don't even know it. You have people, well, now you do. Look at what happened in LA. And they're blatantly telling you, I have this job because of what I stick inside myself. Not because of my character, not because I can do the job, not because I'm strong, not because I'm competent, but because of what I choose to have sex with. And by happenstance, what I look like when I was born. Nothing to do with character, completely contradicting Martin Luther King, which I'm not a big King fan anyway. But since so many of these communists in America are King fans, at least live by what he said, which was judge me by my character and not by how I look. And you guys totally contradict that. Now DEI has been removed. We can get competency and sanity back to the workforce. So let's go ahead and listen to this article.
Making some big moves. As we just said, he announced this partnership with tech leaders to invest tens of billions of dollars in artificial intelligence infrastructure inside the U.S. Again, we'll talk to those gentlemen in just a minute live here on Special Report. The president also revealing moments ago what could be next, saying he's met with the owners of TikTok and that he is also open to Elon Musk buying the social media platform. President Trump also teasing another executive order on California's water supply. Earlier in the day, he huddled with Republican congressional leaders, eager to proceed with his legislative agenda up on Capitol Hill. Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy starts us off tonight. He's in for press briefing. Happened the first full day.
Actually, I wanted to hear Trump talk about. Okay, let's do this one.
President Trump is facing mounting criticism over his sweeping immigration policies, which include declaring a national emergency at the U.S. southern border. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gucci federal agencies to submit a written plan by the end of this month for dismissing their employees. It's unclear how many people would be affected. The White House did not immediately respond.
Hopefully all of them. If you're someone like myself, you believe in smaller government, less oversight. The government's reach is too broad right now. And hiring all of these people that literally have jobs that are redundant and it's just a waste of money for no reason, it means our government needs to shrink. Removing these DEI employees and these DEI jobs means you're removing incompetence and you're removing people who are entitled to these, who feel entitled to these positions, but not based on merits whatsoever, based on everything but, which makes no sense when you're trying to run a productive company or country.
To NBC News for comment. President Trump signed an executive order Monday ending those DEI programs in federal agencies. Yesterday, he signed another targeting diverse hiring practices at the Federal Aviation Administration, arguing the initiatives penalized, quote, hardworking Americans who want to serve but are unable to as they lack a requisite disability or skin color.
Do you not remember when they said they wanted to diversify the skies? How stupid was that? They tried to diversify firefighting in Los Angeles. How did that turn out? How did that go? What are the results? Obviously, when you're doing DEI and you're putting those people in certain positions, you're doing that to purposely bring down a company or a country or a city. Look at the cities that are ran by diverse DEI hires. Look at Los Angeles. Look at Detroit. Look at Atlanta. Look at Minneapolis. Look at these places that are failed cities, destroyed economies, extremely high crime, completely Democrat controlled, and the most dangerous places in the country to live. And the worst part is they want to live like communists, but they want to use the tax dollars that come from us capitalists who work to support their social services and prop up their cities, which are destroyed by crime and mismanaged by DEI hires. This new administration, the Trump administration, will put an end to that, and I am here for it to report on it every step of the way. And if I can, I will push for it in certain areas where need be.
Joining us now, politics reporter for the nonprofit news organization.
And obviously, this is in MSDNC. This is a communist, and you will hear her beg for why she should get special treatment for her and people to look like her, because in their opinion, being Black is also a disability. If you're asking someone why they need special exemptions when they go to the same schools, there is no segregation anymore, what is your problem? And according to her, being Black itself is a disability. It is a mental illness, and they need special services to help them cope with being who they were when they were born. So that's why they need DEI to bring them to the table and level the playing field, because it's not fair for them having a mental disability, which is being born Black. Being born Black or being born looking like her is not a disability. They have the same abilities to perform, and if they are chosen based on the merits, they will get positions. Diversifying and forcing diversity in the name of meeting quotas is a failed policy. But we'll go ahead and hear her out.
Jasmine, can we just drill down on this DEI initiatives piece for a moment? Because there's research that shows diversity is a strength that makes organizations stronger.
Diversity is a weakness. That's why you don't see any of it on the basketball courts or on the football fields. Diversity is a weakness.
Whether federal or private. So what's the argument behind the scenes for getting rid of the DEI initiatives? Is it just we're getting rid of woke?
Yeah, I think that frankly is the argument. I mean, I think that you know as well as I do that there are a few things that President Trump said in those rallies more than that he would get rid of the woke ideology and he would get rid of DEI practices and instead put back what they call meritocracy type style governments where people are, where basically it's race blind, right? People are promoted by their own merits, they say. And so they believe that the fulfillment of those promises that Trump made on the stage at various rallies over the last 2 years. And frankly, these are policies that in at least some ways have been thought out for years by the think tanks that were kind of doing these type of policy papers in between the Trump's first and now this term. And so these are things that they believe are really well thought out. And I think that one thing that people aren't necessarily talking about is not just the fact that these people are going to be placed on administrative leave, potentially being terminated once they figure out maybe a better way to do that because they are government employees or these contractors are contracted by the federal government, but also in these templates, they're asking people within these agencies to then report their fellow colleagues or contractors who they believe their ambition is to do DEI policies, but they're worded differently. And so I think that you're going to see a lot more of things happening from these memorandums and these DEI initiatives that they're just kind of putting in place right now.
You covered the 2024 campaign. Is there other things that Trump promised he would do that haven't yet come out in these executive orders? I know they've been sweeping, but are there gaps that you're seeing in the promises made, promises kept?
Sure. Well, I think tariffs is a huge one. He obviously said previously that he
promises made, promises kept. You ridiculous broad. It has been, today is the 23rd. He came into office on the 20th, and after the inauguration, it was the 20th. It's been 2 days. What are these people smoking? Are they're
tariffs on day one. We haven't seen any indication that those are on the pipeline. They talk about them, but we saw executive order that they wanted to study them. Obviously, deportations is something that they talked about that they would do on day one. That hasn't started in earnest. Obviously, they're talking about ramping it up now. I reported that they kind of wanted DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to be in position before they really started a whole-scale revitalization of the immigration process. So those are some of the major things that he promised on day one that haven't been done. But I think you can kind of go through the litany of things that he promised throughout those 2 years of rallies to see what is and what isn't being done. But certainly they don't believe that DEI would be on that list.
Absolutely. And I think when you do go through that list, you see a lot of those executive orders, the kernels of them go from campaign trail to actual policy. Immediately then you saw the birthright citizenship efforts that he put forward, challenged in court. We were just talking to Stein Perryman in the last blog about the future legal efforts. I think a lot is going to be tied up in court.
Yes.
Do you think that does anything to deter or change the way the administration goes about some of these actions?
I actually don't. I think a lot of these things, like birthright, like some of their immigration policies, they want the Supreme Court to take up because then the Supreme Court can make that final decision. Some of these executive orders or these bills that they're putting past are kind of fodder for these legal actions so that they can be adjudicated by courts that they believe are more favorable to Republicans and to conservative ideas.
Well, a lot of these things should come down to the states, since each state is pretty much its own country and every governor is the president of its own state. So it should come down to the states. And then that way each state can choose if they want to be sanctuary or controlled by DEI, or do they want to be sensical and controlled by people who have the experience, the merits, the know-how. And then you can look at each state and how far it fails. And then you can know where to associate the blame for its, lack of progress. That is a good thing. And yeah, she's correct about that.
So I think that they're going to go about, trying to fundamentally change the government through executive order until Congress can get on board with some of these initiatives. And come what may with the legal challenge.
Any Congress people that go against Trump's mandate, we will primary, and we will put our entire weight behind making sure they do not work in government and they actually lose their office seat in the next 2 years.
Challenges because, first of all, they've achieved their message with their voters, saying that, hey, we did do this. It's the court stopping us, or it's more liberal thing.
The courts aren't going to stop us this time. Removing birthright citizenship is actually going to be something that will be handled rather quickly. But one thing we learned by watching Joe Biden the last few years is that you can pretty much ignore the law. You can game the system by rewriting laws and reapplying for certain exemptions to get around the laws. And we know how to ignore the press when they question you about it. These things are going to get done regardless. And you guys set a really good precedent the last 4 years by ignoring the media and ignoring court orders. Don't complain about it now that the shoe is on the other foot.
Tanks and lawyers stopping us, and then potentially they can get the outcome that they want in the courts because of the way that the courts are being kind of shopped around by conservative outlets.
Yeah, I do think that there is a confidence that this administration has in elevating these issues through the courts. I think you're completely right about that. Jasmine Wright, thank you for joining us.
Well, federal diversity, equity, and inclusion staff members are preparing to lose their jobs. Yesterday, President Trump's administration moved to end the...
I'll be honest with you. You got to be a pretty low-life person to want a job or to want anything when you know you're only going to get it because of how you look or what you choose to have sex with. That means okay, because think about it. That means somebody's not getting that job so that you can get it, but you're only getting it because of how many boxes you check. I have a lot of friends that have passed away back in Los Angeles because they wanted to diversify Hollywood, they said, and it was a trap back in 2020. And they told a lot of black people and gay people that, we're mainly black people, that we're going to give you these acting jobs because we want to diversify Hollywood in the name of social equity. We're going to take these roles that we're going to be given to these white actors. We're going to let you audition for them, and we want you to get these roles. It was a trap to get them to come in because it was California. You know what you had to do to work on those movie sets, right? We all remember the mandate. But in California, people started doing it in early 2020, even before anybody knew anything. They thought they were going to need it to get into clubs, to perform, to fly on airplanes. And that's why you see so many people in Hollywood just being deleted every day. But it was a trap. Really, they just said that to you and they gave you a movie role. But because you did that to yourself, a lot of people have already expired from that. And it's kind of justice in a way. You shouldn't have took that offer. You should have turned down that role if it wasn't based on your acting abilities, just like you shouldn't have accepted these jobs if it was going to be based on your credentials and your history of working in that field. If you're only getting this job because you're meeting a quota, that means it's not based on your merits. You should be ashamed of yourself. So I don't feel sorry for any of these people. They didn't earn these jobs and they should lose them.
Affirmative action in federal contracting and directed that all federal DEI workers be put on paid leave and eventually be laid off. The moves follow an executive order that President.
And guess what? Now they're going to have to go find jobs that they can apply for, and they will get hired based on the merits, not based on what they identify as, or because, you know, the stranger it is, the more they like you because you check 10 boxes. So I'm an albino, gay, lesbian, Furby that identifies as a he, him, her, binary, cloud sniffing, angel archaeologist. Can I get the job? Like what kind of, no, but if you work in the government under Biden, yes, you got the job. And this guy right here that just graduated from Princeton, let him go to hell. No, those days are over. Incompetence is gone. The adults are actually back in control.
And Trump signed on his first day ordering a sweeping dismantling of the federal government's diversity and inclusion programs. Trump has called the programs discrimination and insisted on restoring strictly merit-based hiring. Joining us now, Chief Legal Analyst Colleen Frodes. Okay, so obviously
it's crazy. They keep asking. They find whatever black person works at the. They find somebody black that works at the television station, and they just bring them to talk about this. So apparently, this isn't about diversity. This is just about black people, because the only people they are interviewing about this are black people. But why do they want to do that? Because black people made up their entire base, blacks and gays. They're weird bedfellows when it comes to this. But let's hear what he has to say, because I'm sure he's going to use his victimhood excuse because he feels that how he was born, it was a handicap automatically. So he should get special treatment.
Some sweeping moves. If we know one thing about President Trump, he is true to his word. But what does this mean for those workers who are on paid leave now and set to lose their jobs?
If this is a step into making America great again, those folks that are American citizens today are going to find out that they're going on paid leave, ultimately losing their job. If you're
let's not forget, DEI hires are Democrats. Democrats wanted illegal immigration, so they were going to lose those jobs anyway. They didn't deserve them. They believed in opening the border. They believed in letting immigrants come in and replace them as workers in the first place. So they don't deserve the jobs anyway. Let's keep that in mind. These are people that voted Democrat. These are not people that are conservatives who voted in favor of the country. They're not America first. They are Democrat pieces of human feces that have literally brought this country down brick by brick for the last 4 years.
contracting with the federal government and offered a diversity inclusion program. It says it in the order. Guess what? Your contract is cut. Now you no longer have a job. Your staff no longer have a job. So this is going to be thousands of people that work for the government, that are Americans, that are going to be unemployed. So when we talk about cutting 500,
not all Americans are the same. Yeah, they have citizenship, but they're not really Americans. This guy, yeah, he speaks English. He has citizenship, not an American. Hates America, nothing. He does not have an American flag at his house. He doesn't know the Star Spangled Banner. He's not a patriotic American. He hates the country. He feels like he's a victim. And no, he's not an American, in my opinion. So yeah, they speak English. They might have a birth certificate that says they were born here, but they're not Americans. Not all Americans are the same.
$1 billion from the budget. And people are trying to figure out, well, how are they going to do this? Where's it going to be? Well, this is one place. Let's just go ahead and get rid of this diversity stuff because we don't need it. It doesn't make sense, and we don't need it because it's discriminatory, it's exclusion, it's not inclusion. We don't want this, and we don't need it. And let's go ahead and chop it on the second day in office. But you got it if you don't remember.
But that's true. We don't need it. It is exclusionary. It's not inclusive at all. It only favored the Democratic Party base. It excluded white and straight males and all Asians. So it was not about inclusion whatsoever.
We don't recognize what got us here, and it's easy to get rid of things like this. Look back to Lyndon Johnson. He signed the executive order in 1965. Why? Because we had.
Well, we'll keep in mind DEI practices contradict and are actually unconstitutional based on the 1965 or 64 Civil Rights Act. You can't have the 1964 Civil Rights Act and DEI. They can't coexist. They contradict each other. One means I'm going to focus specifically on your race, color, creed, or sex. The other one says you're not supposed to focus on race, creed, color, or sex. The contradictions are over. We're not doing it anymore.
A number of civil rights issues that were happening in the country. There was a push to understand that we needed to have a diverse work base that reflected what our country and our community looked like. And so
that's okay. Look, a work base. Okay, if your work is going to be based on how your community looks, then that says a lot about people that live in what areas they call the hood. If you want your workplace to look like where some of these people live, then your company is going to fail. Don't ever base what you're going to do in your company off of, well, I want it to look like where the people live who are working here. But you're hiring DEI people that can't adjust to society and work anywhere else based on merits, and you think your company is going to be successful or your country? You're delusional. And he literally just said it all right there. And he didn't say it on purpose, but that's exactly what he said.
He pushed forward these efforts, and Trump today is signing away, I should say yesterday, signing away all of those years, 1965 to today, signing away those years just in the swipe.
So, Khalif, if I'm one of those workers, my first call is to probably call up like somebody like Khalif, right? And say, okay, what can I do now because my job's now being taken away from me? What legal action do I have? Is there any?
There will be a number of lawsuits. I mean, what I can tell you that comes out of this.
Go ahead and waste your time and waste your money filing lawsuits. However, the Constitution will prevail. DEI is anti-American and it's unconstitutional. Waste your money if you want. Let a lawyer finesse you into wasting your money, your time, and you sit around waiting on a payout from the government, hoping they're gonna settle with you. Waste your time if you want to. Either way, you're gonna have to take your ass back to work, and the next company that hires you, if you don't meet the credentials and you don't have the merits, you're not gonna get hired, and it's gonna be a sink or swim situation. If you're a government employee, the gravy train has came to a complete halt.
The Trump process is a payday for lawyers. I mean, looking at this legal process with its own cases, looking at the legal process that will unfold with the mounting litigation that will come from this. This will be like the 50s and the 60s and the 70s all over again. There will be a number of challenges to the Supreme Court to say, is this something that can legally be removed in the manner in which it is? And I think the answer is going to be no.
He's wrong. There will not be mounting cases, and the Supreme Court is going to side with the Constitution. He doesn't understand the Constitution because he's not an American. So you can't expect him to. You can't expect too much from somebody who's too little. Keep that in mind.
But the writing is on the wall. States have been attempting to dismantle diversity and inclusion for a number of years. North Carolina is no exception. The UNC system got rid of all diversity and inclusion programs quickly last year. So on the federal level,
only because they knew Trump was coming back.
I do want to ask you about this. One of the things that Trump has said is that any federal employee.
I mean, are both of these guys DEI or just one? I mean, I don't know this guy's marriage. Let's see how good he is at, being a host. Well, let's see.
Employees that have any suspicion that a program that was DEI, who changed their name, is still DEI, is kind of working in the shadows. He's saying you need to come to our office and snitch.
Well, because now we've criminalized even the process of something that we think is supposed to be okay. Diversity now is this criminal, this dark. They were campaigning called
DEI is unconstitutional and henceforth illegal. And that's an illegal hiring practice because you're excluding other people based on color, skin color, and sexuality, which is illegal. So if this guy doesn't understand that, then you can understand where he comes from. It goes against him and against what he stands for. So that's why he's trying to frame it in a way where it seems like it's wrong or Trump's hurting someone. It's ridiculous, and we're doing the right thing.
Only die, right? Not diversity, equity, and inclusion, but then they wanted this program to die. And one way that you can make it die is make people hate it. And so if I can incentivize you to tell something that is good and now make it bad, now it's made it a bad thing. 2 points that I'll make quickly before I get out of here. The first thing is I don't like the way that he's diminishing the hard work, the effort, the aptitude, the determination of folks, and it kind of wonder if it's a dog whistle of saying these folks who didn't deserve to be here, these women, these people of color, they got these jobs by not working hard for it. And because of that, we're getting rid of it. He's not saying that, but that's what he's saying. And that's problematic to the folks that are doing that job already. And that is something that's going to be a problem for years to come.
That's not just what he's saying, but it's how the message is perceived. Again, Chief Legal Analyst Conley Frodes here. Don't go too far, my friend. We're going to have you back in just a bit. President Donald Trump wasting no time to fulfill some campaign promises and purge the federal government. His administration, via an Office of Personnel Management memo, ordered that all federal employees with DEI jobs be placed on paid leave by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, and all DEI offices and programs should be shut down.
The memo followed Trump's executive order, which overturned President Lyndon Johnson's 1965 order that established affirmative action and anti-discrimination protections. The memo also warned against disguising DEI programs using coded language, and it said that employees who witness this and fail to disclose the information within a 10-day period will face adverse consequences.
White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt wrote in a statement, President Trump campaigned on ending the scourge of DEI from our federal government and returning America to a merit-based society where people are hired based on their skills, not for the color of their skin. This is another win for all Americans, for Americans of all races, religions, and creeds. Promises made, promises kept.
And that's exactly why we voted for Donald J. Trump. That's why we're very happy he's back in office. We're already seeing results. The world is healing. Wars are coming to an end. Conversations are being had to expand American energy independence and bring our economy back online. We're already rehiring people to start drilling. There will be a new industry growing in Alaska that's going to require tens of thousands of Americans to relocate there, which is, a very energy heavy part of the country where we're going to need to invigorate and create new industries there. Things are getting better already, and it's only been 2 days in. And now they're getting rid of all of the DEI plants, the people who are basically in government to help dismantle our government. They're purging them. They're purging those Trojan horses that have been put in certain places based on how they look. And they know they got those jobs based on how they look. So they have to be loyal to whoever their masters are, whoever who's in control of them. Those people are being kicked out. Those are deep state puppets. And they are anti-American, and now they're being purged. Thank God. So I love to see it. And let's hear what the Hill has to say. This is from the Hill yesterday, by the way.
Meanwhile, the Congressional Black Caucus responded to Trump's move, writing, "This executive order is nothing short of an attempt to take our country backward."
Why is the congressional? So like I said, the only people complaining about this are blacks. Luckily, this is not black land. This is not the United States of Black America. There's no such country as black land or black territory. There's nothing. So we don't have to pay attention to them. This is not a black country. This is not a black and white country where there's people from all walks of life, all countries, all languages. Everybody's living here. We can do just fine by just ignoring one particular group. We'll be fine. Maybe two, because the LGBT, with all their pushing pedophilia and trans stuff on little kids, we're going to ignore them. We're going to ignore them. We're going to make sure that they can't do that anymore. We're not going to cry and let them shame us. So these two groups that use shame to get their way, we're going to just ignore them, and we're going to push forward with what needs to be done to shore up our country. And we're definitely not going back to listening to them, because we see the damage that happened when we listened to them in 2020. Remember, they're the ones who cried and begged and pushed a lot of the fraud that got Harris and Biden put in power. Can you imagine if Harris would have won? We're not listening to these people anymore. That's over and it's out.
And does nothing to help our communities grow economically.
And the fact that your community still needs help growing economically means that you have personally failed. All of you Black Congress people, not one of you live in a community where Black people live that has fared or even moved up 1 percentile in the past 60 years. They've went down. So again, why would you listen to people on the bottom for financial advice? Why would you listen to people who have the worst results, the worst cities, and the worst mismanagement when they are the ones in charge? Why would you listen to them when it comes to managing anything? I wouldn't let them run an animal shelter. I wouldn't let them run anything. So ignore.
Living for hardworking American families. This executive order is not only a broken economic promise, it stands in opposition to evidence which shows that diversity initiatives improve the government's ability.
We did a live the other day where we went through DEI hiring practices to see where there has been any benefit at all whatsoever in the past 20 years. There has been zero evidence that any DEI or affirmative action has helped any businesses grow, expand, or any country do better. None of the metrics have went up when there has been affirmative action or DEI practices applied. Not one. Nothing. So we're not doing it anymore.
To better serve our community.
Earlier on Tuesday, the White House announced that the Transportation Department and the Federal Aviation Administration would stop DEI hiring practices and quote, return to merit-based hiring. In another move to pare down the federal workforce, the White House on Tuesday demanded that federal agencies list employees who are on a probationary period and recommend who should keep their jobs.
University of Michigan professor Don Moynihan wrote on Blue Sky, quote, "This isn't about woke government or DEI. It is removing civil rights era protections against discrimination."
Forcing people to hire people they don't want to hire doesn't make any sense, and it has not worked. So we're not doing it anymore. So take it how you want to. It's falling on dead. It's a waste of your breath.
On the other side, podcast host Megyn Kelly wrote on X, "It's like we went to sleep, woke up, and all of our dreams have come true."
That's exactly how I feel when I woke up today and saw this.
Babylon Bee managing editor Joel Berry said, "Okay, now it's time for Congress to pass these Trump executive orders into law. What's stopping Congress from enshrining Remain in Mexico or no DEI in government? We have both houses. What is stopping us?"
Well, it's only been 2 days. Give it time. We will make those changes.
That is a good sentiment from the conservative side of things, because we don't want to create a reality where if we lose in 4 years, somebody comes in and just does executive orders reversing all this.
Yeah, we're not going to lose in 4 years. Nobody wants to. For one thing, to be a Democrat, now it doesn't have nothing to do with you because you want to save the black people like the way you want to save the whales or the sea lions. Because that's all it was when it came to being a Democrat. You felt sorry for black people. You wanted them to have welfare, government cheese, and you felt like they couldn't get jobs because of discrimination and racism. You were brought up. Someone told you that you're oppressing them and that you're privileged, and you became a Democrat. That's all it worked. And for people who work for a living and don't believe in just giving out handouts because they see that it doesn't yield good results, they decided they're no longer Democrats. After what we just saw, what we know now, nobody's going, because now the Democrat Party is all about being gay and decriminalizing pedophilia so that you don't get put on a sex offender registry list anymore. And it's also about converting children behind their parents' backs. I don't think anybody in their right mind, not in big numbers, would ever support any of that. So going forward, there's not going to be a huge Democrat push. Matter of fact, I'm looking at the general consensus on social media. Now everybody's a Trump supporter, and that's not going to go away. The whole pushing gay stuff on everybody, that's people can turn a blind eye to it, but when you put it right in their face and open their eyelids, there's no way for them to ignore it, and that's when people reject it. So I'm going to go ahead and end this live. I'll be back on in the morning, and I have a morning show. I'm going to do an America First daily show. We have some other topics in the morning. We might have a guest. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me, Save an Effective Podcast. Follow me on YouTube. We have some new followers. We're gaining traction. The link is in the description. And I'm going to go ahead and make some breakfast and then take a nap, and then I'll be back on in a few hours. Sorry that you guys have to hear snoring. That is my co-host, Bacon. And he decided to come here and sit behind me and go to sleep. So, I'm going to go ahead and end this. I'm going to get a little rest myself, and I'll be back in the morning. Remember, F the World Economic Forum, F the World Health Organization, and F Klaus Schwab. Trump's on the same page as me now, thank God. So things are, so we're getting rid of all those we're ending relationships with those people, and the country's healing. So I'll see you in a little while. Thank you very much for your support. And here goes a word from our sponsor, cosigning.com. Thank you.
After a ton of stress and worry because of my super low credit score, we were finally able to sign on my dream apartment. I wouldn't have been able to do it without cosigning.com. I was able to get a guarantor that was signed with me so that I could obtain this amazing apartment.